Hello, friends. This is Congressman Patrick McHenry. I'm coming to you live from with a telephone town hall meeting today. We're going to get to your questions. So if you have questions, please press *3, and we'll get you in the queue. I want to give you the rundown on what's going on in Washington, but before we get into all that about the state of affairs, I think we should start by, just a reminder to all of us, we should be praying for our neighbors down east who are impacted by the recent storm, and those that are being hit by it now. These things are always dicey and with the risk of human life, and so just be aware of that. I'm going to start this evening by giving you the lay of the land where things are in Washington, including what's being done to address the coronavirus and how it's affecting our communities. And want to make sure that we get to as many questions as possible. So please press *3 if you'd like to ask a question. Again, *3 to ask a question. So I want to begin tonight by recognizing what a difficult and trying year this has been for our communities and for our country. We began this year with one of the strongest economies we've ever had in American history. Record low unemployment. We saw with the president's trade agenda, taking China very seriously, that we saw with that good tax policy, regulatory policy. We saw the emergence of strong growth in our economy, and wage growth to go along with it. So the average family is better off at the end of 2019 than they'd been really in generations. And so, that changed a lot. And so we, obviously want to think of those frontline workers battling the coronavirus and the folks that keep us safe and healthy in our communities. Like our law enforcement, we also want to thank our healthcare workers that are doing everything that they can to protect us and to keep us safe. And we saw that across Western North Carolina. We continue to see those extraordinary acts. So now as we start tonight, allow me to give you just a quick update on what Washington has done to address the coronavirus. And so we've continued to fight, and I believe it's the duty of Congress, working with the president, to offer bipartisan solutions to advance the safety and health of America, to keep us stronger and to keep us strong, to keep us safe, to keep us healthy. At the beginning of the crisis, Congress came together and we passed the Bipartisan CARES Act. And while the bill was far from perfect, it was necessary. The CARES Act was not a stimulus package. It wasn't about a grab bag of a bunch of Washington programs, but it was an emergency relief bill designed to ensure our hospitals, our local and state officials, and our local economies have the resources they need to keep our economy, to keep our people afloat during this crisis that they didn't make. This isn't like the financial crisis. This isn't about Wall Street malfeasance that brought our economy low. This was the voluntary shutdown of our economy because of the virus. And the CARES Act, we had the Paycheck Protection Program, which is in essence the way that we used small businesses to help those on their payroll. That was what it was about. It's about successfully saving millions of jobs. And I think we succeeded in saving millions of jobs. Not all, but in 2 months, the program moved more than $500 billion worth of loans to 4.9 million small businesses, supporting 51 million jobs across the country. Here in North Carolina, the program supported 1.7 million jobs with over $12 billion in loans issued to small businesses in our great state. So while the CARES Act was the right response at the right time, we have a lot more to get done. And what comes next with the coronavirus relief package, we need to be measured about this. And what I believe the approach we have to take is we have to measure twice and cut once, right? Think of it that way. Measure twice and cut once. Now, that's not really what Washington's good at. What they want to do and what the debate is now is how much money can you shovel out the door regardless of need. And so what we're focused on is making sure that schools and healthcare facilities get the support that they need. And those workers that aren't permitted to go back to work because of the actions of governors and mayors and the shutting down of businesses, that they get the support they need so they can survive. And so those are the things that I'm focused on. And that means we need to build better technology, drive more innovation so we get a cure, we get a treatment regime, we get people safe and secure and healthy, and that way we can actually return to supporting new ideas and cutting-edge research and entrepreneurship and all those things that make our economy good and strong. And so I've supported programs and changes to federal law so that we can get our supply chain. You think of that PPE equipment that is so vital for the healthcare, for our healthcare providers, the masks, the gowns, the gloves, to make sure they can give tests or treat patients. Right? We need to make sure that we're not reliant on Chinese-made gear. We need to bring that home. We need to bring that supply chain home so that we are safer here in the United States and more secure from really Chinese-made goods that may not be as good as the ones that we can make here in the United States. We need to make sure we have a plentiful supply. And so I have a bipartisan bill that does just that. It's the American PPE Supply Chain Integrity Act. So we're trying to work through those things that make sense for the short term and for the long term here. So that's the top line right now. Want to take your questions, though. And we've got folks that are queued up tonight for our telephone town hall. If you'd like to ask a question, please press *1, and we will take your questions in as they come in. So we have, let's see, we've got here we go. We've got Mr. Yoder. Mr. Yoder, I don't have the town you're from, but Mr. James Yoder, you're on the line, live for telephone town hall.
Hey, how you doing, Mr. McHenry?
Doing great, Mr. Yoder. Where are you from?
Lincoln, North Carolina, and I'd like to thank for what all you've done for me and my wife in the past, and we always give you our vote.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. What's your question tonight?
Well, it's kind of about that coronavirus stuff. They say, if everybody wear a mask, it'd probably take care of it, maybe. But why not everybody stay at home for, like 30 days, except the people, that absolutely, essential people that need to get out there. Everybody else stay home, and there's not much use to have a mask mandate if they're not going to enforce it. If they drive them out like a $500 ticket, I don't believe I could get but one of them, and it'd cure me from going out. But that's just my input on it. It seems like, I'm not going to say a simple problem to correct, but, maybe that would work. What do you think?
Well, I think that's part of it. But let me put you on hold, and I'll give you the answer here. But thank you for your question, Mr. Yoder.
And thank you for what you've done for me and my wife. And you have a nice day, sir.
Thanks. Look forward to seeing you in person sometime soon. Mr. Yoder's question is I think a good one, which is why not just shut things down and try to control the virus? We're seeing this in Australia, where they've shut down a whole part of Australia. Well, quite frankly, I think we're at the stage where people wouldn't abide by it. And the areas that are hard hit, the hardest hit areas, maybe that'll work. Maybe that'll work in some urban area, but you got to have law enforcement to do it. And we're seeing urban areas where they won't even enforce basic laws with people gathering, big gatherings of people protesting or doing other things. So what I'd say is we have to do the things that we can control in our personal lives. And what I believe is individuals can make good decisions for themselves, and they should make good decisions for themselves. And that means that we've got to be wise and thoughtful in how we go out. That means washing your hands, wearing a mask when you're around other people that are not a part of your family or people you don't interact with regularly. Keeping distance from other people. Basically, the stuff that we do when we're just trying to stay healthy and away from people, right? And those that have a pre-existing condition or concerns, that they have to take a heightened awareness. But I think that's part of it. Yes, that is part of it. We also have to get on with finding a cure, right? Or a vaccine is a way to think of it, right? And so that is the work that we're about, and that's Operation Warp Speed has gone about trying to get that vaccine. But that is a bigger issue that we've got to resolve, and we're resolving it through funding, right? And at this stage, we have 8 different companies, 6 deals with 8 companies on getting a vaccine. And so 6 different vaccines that are going through the testing process to make sure they work. And when we get a vaccine that is through the whole process, it will be safe, and we should take them. And so we're moving forward to make sure that that's out there and available. But back to our personal responsibility and our duty, our personal responsibility and our duty is to make sure that we stay healthy and that we limit our interaction with other people so we limit the spread. We can do that. I don't think you need a government mandate, and I don't think you need the police force to enforce that. I think we can do that reasonably by taking precautions at the individual level. That's why I believe personal responsibility is a key here. So that's my top line view here. So we got other folks that are coming in the line here for questions. Please press *3 to ask a question, and we'll get you in the queue. But for those of you who joined us, we've got a telephone town hall meeting tonight, and this is Congressman Patrick McHenry. And so let's get to the next question. Let's see here. Who's next here? Let's see. We've got Ms. Matthews. I don't have a town for you, but Ms. Matthews, you're live on the call tonight.
I'm from Conover, North Carolina.
Well, thank you. Thanks for being on.
And my concern is I'm a cancer survivor, and my concern is with tax increases and all that are implemented on single people, and decrease that Medicare wants to pay for cancer treatment even though you're not cancerous. They are cutting the treatments that they're now providing and eliminating some of the treatments for the complications that you have from being in cancer treatment in the past. And I'm seeing this more and more, and medication is increasing so much. And I just think that you need to address this. We need to address this for everyone, because more and more cancer diagnoses are being given day in and day out.
Okay. So on this in particular, if you have an issue with Medicare, please, if you would, call my office tomorrow in Hickory, and the number is 828-327-6100. 6100. And we will, for a constituent casework issue like this Medicare issue, please let us help there. And so this is a big issue. So thank you for raising it, but let us see if we can help this specific case and see if there's some larger change that we need to make happen for you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. And again, if you've just joined us, this is Congressman Patrick McHenry, and you can look at my website, which is mchenry.house.gov, and that would give you all the information to contact my office. But if you have a casework issue for you or a loved one or a neighbor or friend, it's some issue where we can help fix a problem that they're having with the government, please give us a call. My talented staff, we're always happy to assist where we can and try to get the best response that we can. So let me go on next. You've got Ms. Schweisgood from
Yes.
Statesville.
Yes,
Hello. Thank you for, yes, it's Patrick McHenry. Thanks for being on the line. What's your question tonight on tonight's telephone town hall?
Okay, I have a concern about the voting process, if it's going to be a mass mail voting or if we're able to, or be a combination of absentee voting and poll voting. I think there is a very good case for mail fraud, voting fraud, if you do mass mailing.
Yes. Thank you for raising this. This is a serious issue of concern. So thank you, Ms. Weisgott. I'll put you back on hold here. It's about mass voting by mail. So in North Carolina, right? There are all these other states that have different ways of voting. But in North Carolina, we have a good, long-standing method of how we do this. In-person election day, our traditional voting, everyone's aware of. We also have early voting for roughly the 2.5 weeks leading up to Election Day. And that's technically called no excuse early voting. Well, no excuse because it's effectively an absentee ballot. You get to do it in person at a number of different polling places. And that works really well. My wife and I have used that a number of times, and it's been no lines or little lines. And the folks in Lincoln County where we live, the Board of Elections, they do a great job, and all those volunteers do a fantastic job to make the election happen in those early voting sites especially. And then there's also in North Carolina mail-in absentee ballots. Now, I've used that before as well. If you're traveling on Election Day, or if I'm running around Election Day, I've used the mail-in vote. We have a strict set of rules, so it's not everybody that does it. So what I would do is broadly, I'd tell you, our in-person early voting and our absentee ballots that we mail in are very safe in North Carolina. Now, there's a concern that if you go to all mail-in votes, like some states want to do, that you don't have as safe a system as what we have in North Carolina. And I agree, that's a problem, that's a concern that I have, because we want the integrity of our election system to be the highest possible, right? We can fight like cats and dogs over who should be elected, but we shouldn't have to fight over the fairness of the count. We shouldn't do that. That should be left up to third world countries where that happens, not our great United States of America. And so I'm glad that our system in North Carolina is safe and sound. And if we have absentee ballots by mail, we got a very strict process there. If you have early voting, we've got a very strict process there. And if you have Election Day, strict as well in North Carolina. So I'm not worried about the integrity of our system in North Carolina. I'm worried about some other states where that's a problem. But thank goodness we don't have that problem in North Carolina. Thank you for raising it. And so let me get to Mr. McGibbon in Sherrills Ford over in Iredell County. Or are you on the Catawba side?
Yes, sir. Catawba.
Oh, excellent. Well, it's on both sides of the lake. So anyway, thank you. Thanks for being on the line. It's Patrick McHenry. And for those of you who just joined us, it's a telephone town hall. So, Mr. McGibbon.
Thank you for taking my question. Before I retired here at the Sherrills Ford, I worked for a pharmaceutical and medical device company up in North Chicago. I actually ran one of their businesses inside the manufacturing group, and so I'm very attuned to this issue about the manufacturing going overseas. I actually addressed it with then Senator Kirk from Illinois. At the time, expressed to him my major concern is exactly what we're seeing now, is that we are losing so much of our ability for antibiotics and equipment that's critical to, critical care units and hospitals that was moving over to India and China. And actually, those were the most scary, but it also was going to Ireland and Singapore because of huge tax advantages that those countries offered that America wasn't willing to do. So it was just practical for the companies to move it over there. As you look at trying to, I know you said something about having a bill on PPE. Are you also looking at these, medications for heart and diabetes and things like this, and getting those back into the U.S. to at least manufacture enough to take care of our own demand? Is there anything in that bill that you spoke of, or anything you're working on that would address those issues?
Yes, thank you for raising it. That is a critical issue. So thank you, Mr. McGivern. So it's my focus on with my bill that we're working through the legislative process is focused on that physical equipment that is basically oriented to textiles, right? And the basic manufacturing that goes into those components are really related to textiles. That's the focus with that bill. But we are broadly working through the complete supply chain for pharmaceutical drugs and technology. And if you think of some of the elements that go into even your iPhone or your computers, those things the Chinese have sought to control. Additionally, some of the basic elements that go into pharmaceutical drugs, the Chinese control many of those inputs. Things that go into vaccines, the Chinese control, or we've allowed it to be offshored. So we are addressing that in a holistic way. There's bipartisan support for this. And there's history on our side. After World War I, in the United States, we decided to address our whole supply chain issues because we had a number of critical things that were made in Germany or in Europe that went into really the strength of the American economy, that really tested the strength of the American economy. And we fixed that problem between World War I and World War II. And then after World War II, we've gradually allowed these supply chain issues to erode over time. And through trading relationships or various other things, we haven't thought of our national security and the risk to our national security that offshoring of some critical elements have weakened us. And so we're addressing that, and I think over the next few years, you're going to see a broader set of issues that we address. But critically, Mr. McGivern, that the pharmaceutical supply chain is high in my mind and in our minds, and for Republicans and Democrats in Washington. So anyway, thank you for raising that. And so we've got other questions that are coming down the line, and want to thank everyone for being on this telephone town hall. So, but tonight, if you have questions, please press *3, and we'll get you in the queue. And so, what's next up? What do we have here? Let's see. We've got we had Kelly Carpenter from Vail.
Yes, sir. I have actually two questions. One, I would like to know why we're in court litigating cutting Social Security benefit to seniors and also Medicare. Me and my husband are 62 years old. We both have pre-existing conditions, and I don't understand that. We've both been working since we were 15 years old. I've been paying into this for my entire life, and we had very good jobs, and it makes no sense to me why the government would be trying to take away what I've done paid in. Second,
right.
I'm having surgery at the end of the month. It's a surgery I have to have. I go for a COVID test 5 days prior to my surgery to make sure I'm not infected, and I'm not. I haven't left my house since I had my back surgery last September. And they cannot tell me if the nurses and doctors that are going to be in the operating room with me, because the surgery I'm having this month is going to be very bloody, very messy. They cannot tell me if the surgical staff has had their COVID test and that I'm going to be safe from the doctors and nurses and whoever else is in the room. I don't understand. When you retire at 62, you should get Medicare automatically. Our health insurance costs so much money. It's over half. It's more than my Social Security benefits.
Okay, let me try to answer these two things. And so thank you for raising this, Ms. Carpenter. And I think you're right. When you pay into the system, you shouldn't see your benefits cut. And I don't support reducing anyone's Social Security benefits or your Medicare benefits. There's no litigation going on right now, nor any legislation that would cut your Social Security benefits. And so that is not going to happen. Nor does the president want to cut Social Security benefits or support cutting Social Security benefits. So just to be clear, that is not on the table. And the only discussions that are happening on Social Security is the hope that I have is that we keep Social Security solvent and strong for the next generation. So that if you're 35 years old today or 30 years old today, that you still can access Social Security, which is going broke over the coming years. So we have to fix this and save the program, but nobody's advocating for cutting Social Security. That is not on the legislative agenda, to be clear. Second, the question for healthcare of you getting a test before surgery, yes, that's quite common. And each hospital system has their own testing regime for the coronavirus. Some test quite frequently, and they could tell you when, but you have to access that for each one of the hospital systems in hospital that you are using. So thank you for raising this, and thanks for being on the call tonight. We've got Ms. Bowman from Hickory on the line. Thank you for being here. It's Congressman Patrick McHenry for Telephone Town Hall. And so what's your question?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. McHenry. My question is, as I'm looking at cotton balls for first aid, I'm seeing them coming from India. So will this trend continue? Because I'd rather have mine made in America, but will I have to will I have to see them coming from India?
Well, thank you for raising that. Actually, we've got in our Great 10th District, we've got the largest producer of American cotton in our district, and so no, you shouldn't have to get foreign manufactured cotton products. You shouldn't have to see that. And so if you go to Walmart or CVS, there should be an alternative for you that is made in the United States. And so I would I think U.S. Cotton is one of the names of the brands that's out there. So I'd recommend American Cotton. So thank you. Thanks for the question. No, we shouldn't allow our manufacturing base to be eroded. We have to have competitive products on the shelf, and we need to have trade agreements that support American jobs. So anyway, thank you. Thanks for raising the question. And so let's see, what else do we have? We've got Miss DiNardo in Hickory. You got a question for us tonight?
Yes, I do. How are you, Patrick McHenry, Congressman? Yes, I have two questions. My first question is, with these vaccines, first and utmost, are they going to make this mandatory for all people to take this, which I hope not? Also, what would be the liability for the federal government and the pharmaceutical companies if any person does get ill? That's my first question. My second question is, looking at the Republican Party, and I thank God for Trump every single day, I feel we, the Republican Party, do not shout loud enough because the Democrats are out there and they are causing just upheaval. Where are the Republicans to stand behind our president, to fight with him? Those are my two questions.
Thank you. Great question. Let me start with the question of Republicans sticking with the president. I will tell you that if you're a Republican and you say a supportive word about the president, you're not likely to get invited to the Sunday shows. But if you are a Republican and you say bad things about the president, you will be on as many Sunday shows as you want to be on. You'll be on TV. You'll get invited by the media, and you'll be featured front and center. Now, so they highlight the people that disagree, and that is what the media likes. They want to have conflict, and they want to have conflict between Republicans. And so any Republican that'll say something bad about the president, they highlight. And this president, they highlight it more than I think any other president. But they even did this with Barack Obama. If you're a Democrat and you said something negative about Obama, you'd get featured. And if you're a Republican and you said something negative about George W. Bush, you'd get featured, right? It just so happens that the media is done this on hyperdrive right now, and that's because that's the obsession with the president that the media has. That's my view of it. Now, other people have different views, and if you're a Democrat on the line, you may have a different view than what I would have about this. But that is really what happens. You get featured if you're negative. The other question about vaccines. No, there will not be a mandate for you to take the vaccine on the coronavirus. But what I will tell you is we are going through all the heavy regulatory burden to prove out how effective these things are. First of all, there are two key things with getting a drug approved. One, you have to ensure that it does what it says it does, right? That it's effective. One. And two, you have to ensure that it does not hurt people. So one, it produces good, and two, it doesn't hurt you, right? And so those two things are both critically important. If you take a drug that says that it's going to lower your cholesterol and it doesn't lower your cholesterol, that is a bad thing. Now, if you take a vaccine like this about this virus, right, the coronavirus, and it says that it protects you, it needs to protect you. So the 6 deals that have been a part of Operation Warp Speed, the 6 deals involve 8 companies, and they're all they're quite outstanding companies. Almost all are American companies, and the deals there for those 6 vaccine candidates are to ensure that their clinical trials are not held up by government regulations. Now, the government regulations, they still have to make sure that these are safe and effective. Absolutely. So be assured that if it gets through the FDA process, if it gets through the regulatory process, that it will be effective. And then to the second point, I think most people will want to take the vaccine when it's offered to protect themselves. And there are others that can make the free choice to not take it. But I think it's really important to let people make decisions for themselves. And so what I would say is I, for one, will once a vaccine comes through, I will seek the vaccine. Not in front of every other people, but I will actually take the vaccine. So that's my choice, my personal choice, and my family and I, we can make decisions for ourselves and our children, but other people can make their decisions for themselves. So that's my long answer for a very short question. Sorry about that. So anyway, thank you all for being on the line. It's Patrick McHenry. Got a couple more questions in queue, and thank you all for taking time to be on this call. And I'm really just grateful to have the opportunity to represent you. So we've got Mr. Butler from Lake Norman. So are you on the Denver side?
Yeah, well, I'm down here close to Calvin's Ford. I'm actually the second last cove before you get to the dam.
Oh, absolutely. I know where you are.
Yeah.
So I don't live too far away from you. So anyway, how you doing, Mr. Butler?
I'm doing good. You?
Not bad. And just good to be on with y'all. And what's your question tonight?
Well, it's really about the leadership, in the House and in the minority leader in the Senate, and all the unrest that's going on in the country, the rioting, and it's just a mess. I mean, it's scary. I'm 77 years old, and my wife, we don't get out that much as far as, especially with this COVID-19 going on. But it just seems to me that nobody, whatever, the president wants, it's 180 degrees off from what he wants on everything, and it hurts the American people the most. But it just seems like these leaders are pushing us towards a socialist country, and it's just real scary. And you work with the members of the House. How is the members? Are they more bipartisan than the leadership?
Yes, but I'll tell you, it's a dumpster fire up there right now.
Right. I mean, it is. I look at, I keep up with the news, but I get so mad and scared sometimes I just go somewhere else. But it's it's tearing our country apart.
Yes. Well, thank you for the question. Let me try to answer that. Thank you, Mr. Butler. Thanks for being on the call. Thank you. I appreciate it. Well, thank you, Mr. Butler. I appreciate it. And so we're gonna keep going here. So I think national leadership on getting us through this. You see, you don't see that coming from Congress, and it's quite frustrating because we know there's serious work that has to be done, and it's very frustrating because we're not seeing it get done. And we got to prioritize getting people through this and get the economy going again. Think of the question of safely opening schools. It's a really incredibly difficult question on how to do it safely, both for the students and for the teachers and for the families related to it. But we need to see leadership on this. We need to see leadership on testing. We need to see leadership on how businesses can safely get back to work without risk of being sued. And these things require hard work from our community leaders. And we're not seeing that, unfortunately. And it's quite frustrating to me because we need a consistent message on how we can safely do this. And so thank you for raising that question. It is sorely needed. And I think people are quite frustrated, even more so because this is an election year and everything else is much more frustrating. And especially laying on top of the fact that we've got this virus that we're trying to beat. So we got Mr. or Mrs. Smith from Lincolnton. That's all I've got here. If you're on the line.
Yes, I am. Sandy.
Hi, Ms. Smith. Thanks for being on the line.
Thank you for taking my
telephone
call.
Town Hall. Thank you.
I have a question. What about these retailers when you go like Walmart and some of these other retail stores and you go in to make a purchase and they want their exact amount of money, and if you don't have the exact change, then they're like, well, we need to round it off to the nearest dollar, or either you just don't get your purchase because we're short on coins. So why is it that our money is so short on coins all of a sudden in our country? And then a second question I have is, if when school starts back and you have these parents that need to go back to work, how are they to find childcare when school's only going to be open like 2 days a week?
Well, that is a major issue, and for us in North Carolina, but every state in the country is struggling with that question of opening schools. But we need to have some consistent policy, right? And we don't. We've got 3 different options, and it seems like they end up being 4, 5, 6 different options by the time school boards get done making a decision. And as a parent, I am frustrated by that too. The question about change is a very good one. If y'all, I think many people have gone out. You've experienced this, and quite frankly, because of the shutdown, we shut down the supply chain to move money around. And what I mean by money is actual dollars and the actual paper money and coins. And it slowed down the manufacturing process for that currency. And it also slowed down the movement of that to get it where it's needed and necessary. And that money is that currency has flowed through our society without much of a debate. But this is something that we are working to remedy right now as we speak. And it is a major concern for us. The Federal Reserve is in charge of our currency, and this is something that they haven't had a problem with in decades, but they're currently experiencing a severe problem with change, for instance, coins, more so than bills. And so that is also a question of manufacturing and us getting the manufacturing going again and getting our economy up and running and people working again. That's a big struggle for currency. So we're trying to fix that. I'm quite aware of the currency issue and trying to make a difference and get that fixed. We've got Mr. Pearson from Lincolnton is next up on the line. Mr. Pearson, you're on the line.
I'd like to thank you for your service from the Alpha Battery, first 113th. My question is, what are we going to do to hold China accountable for this pandemic? It's affected Republicans, Democrats. What are we going to do?
It's a great question. And I think that is a fundamental big question for us to resolve. Not as Democrats, not as Republicans, but as Americans. How do we resolve that? Well, first, I think we need to have trade policy that makes us stronger and doesn't make China stronger. That's number one. Number two, with Michael McCall and Greg Walden, 2 other Republican leaders in the House, have sent a letter to President Trump requesting sanctions on China based off of their attempted hacking of our research data on trying to find a vaccine or a cure. And so that is a key issue to hold China accountable. So stronger trade policy, sanctioning those agencies and those people and the Chinese government for their attempt at hacking our cure for the virus that they unleashed on the world. The other thing is this: people focus on punishing China. Well, why don't we do this? Why don't we focus on policies that make us stronger, make our marketplace cheaper and easier to do business in, make our tax policy much better for small businesses and for mom and pop shops to go out and start businesses. Make our regulation easier so that people can comply with it and start a new business or take a little risk. We should try to strengthen ourselves. That is, I think, a key thing. Make us more independent in terms of energy. Make us more independent in every sense of the word for our supply chain, our manufacturing capacity, and who we are. Make our healthcare better, more accessible, our people healthier. Let's look holistically about how we make America stronger, and that is the best retribution for Chinese bad action, the Communist Chinese Party's bad actions here. And so, somebody said, how do you punish your enemies? And somebody said, I don't remember the exact phrasing of it, but how do you punish your enemies? By living a good life, right? By living a happy and good life, right? That's the best way. So I think we need to strengthen ourselves, and that's the best way to combat China. Now, I'm looking at the clock, and I want to be mindful of everyone's time, even in this, even during shutdown here with the virus. I know people have schedules, and so and with a 5-year-old and 2-year-old in my house, 2 daughters, it becomes the witching hour about now. So I want to say thank you for all of you that joined us tonight on the telephone town hall. I'm grateful that you all are on the call. Grateful for the opportunity to represent you. It means the world to me to have the opportunity to be your voice in Washington. For those of you who are not able to answer your questions tonight, they're still in the queue. Please stay on the line. You will be given a voice prompt, and we'll be able to leave a message, and we will respond. I and my staff will respond to you in due course as quickly as we can about your question or comment or a constituent casework issue. So I want to close by saying thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to be your voice in Washington. Thank you for the opportunity to represent you. And thank you for being such great North Carolinians and respectful and caring of one another during these really tough times that we faced with the coronavirus. So thank you for your friendship. Thank you for your prayers. God bless.